In today's video, I'm going to show you the fastest and easiest way to implement payments on your Next.js applications using the Stripe payment gateway with Stripe Checkout. Also, don't forget to subscribe because I release videos like this each and every week. So if you don't want to miss out, then do make sure to smash the absolute heck out of that subscribe button. Now, something developers often wonder is how to accept payments on a website. And I'm going to show you how to do just that using Next.js and with the Stripe API. So in this video, we will use Stripe Checkout to accomplish this. And how Stripe Checkout works is that when the user clicks to checkout, then we are going to create a session, which is going to be a Stripe Checkout session. We're going to configure this session and redirect the user to the session where they will land on a pre-built checkout page from Stripe. And they will either complete payment or they will cancel their payment. Then once you're done with this quick tutorial, you'll have the ability to easily accept payments on your Next.js applications using Stripe. So this right here is going to be the application. So it's very simple, obviously. There's no heading, no nav bar, nothing fancy like that. This is just to show you how to accept payments on a website and to show you how to do it as fast as possible. So here we have a nice little image. We have the title, the price, and then I can click on this checkout. This is going to bring me to this page right over here where I can then enter some details. I can enter a card, and then the name, and postal code, and then from there I can click on this pay. So once I do this inside of Stripe, if I refresh here, there's going to be an intent to pay. So it's going to be incomplete, this payment right here. So I'm gonna have to click on this pay. So this protein powder is $80. So I can click pay, it's gonna process. And then after that, I get just redirected here to the home page. So then back inside of here, if I do a refresh in my Stripe dashboard, then I see that this payment is now succeeded, which means that it's complete. So that's what we're going to learn how to build inside of this tutorial. All right, so now let's go ahead and see how we can accomplish this. So in order to follow along, you're going to need a text editor. I'd highly recommend using VS Code because in my opinion, that is the best text editor in existence. So go ahead and use that. And then you're also going to need Node on your system. So if you want to know the version of Node I'm using version 14.17.3, as you can see right over here. And then that's going to give you the Node package manager. And then the version I'm using for that is 8.1.2. So inside of my VS Code editor, I have a folder open called Make Gains because this website's going to be all about selling protein powder. So that means that this website is for all the big boys that lift weights and need some sweet protein powder that they can snort in order to get some fabulous muscles. Or wait, is that not how you take protein powder? Well, damn, I guess I've been doing it wrong this whole time. Anyway, let's go ahead and now see how we can implement this. So you're going to need Stripe. So you can just Google for Stripe and then you can create an account if you don't have one already. So I'm just going to click here. It's going to bring me to stripe.com and then I can just sign in. And then if you don't have an account, just click on the sign up and sign up for a Stripe account. So I'm going to log in with the account that I made. So here we are inside of the dashboard. So make sure you have the test mode activated. So you're going to want it to look just like this. And then you're going to go into this developers. And then from here, you can view your API keys. So this is something we're going to need. So before we get into using these API keys, let's go into the Stripe documentation. So you can just search for Stripe documentation. So that's going to bring you to stripe.com/docs, or you can just click on this link. And then we're going to click on this payments tab, and then online, and then accept online payments. And then to use Stripe Checkout, we want to have a pre-built checkout page. And then in our case, we're going to be using Next.js. So Next.js has a built-in API, so we're not going to have any kind of different backend. It's all going to be inside of Next.js. So right here, you can see the code that's utilized in order to accomplish this. So we're going to have a .env file. We're going to have our API endpoint that we're going to be hitting. That's going to create our session and redirect us to it. And then we're also going to have this index.js, which is just going to be our default homepage. And then here we're going to have a button in order to check out. So let's go ahead and get started on this. First, I'm going to have to set up a Next.js project. So I can do that with npx create-next-app and then the name of the app, which I'm going to call Make Gains. And then I will proceed. All right, so there we are, that finished building. So I'm just going to clear things up. I'm going to navigate into that folder with cd make gains. So that way I'm inside of this folder right here. And then inside of here, I'm going to create a source folder. So one thing you can do is you can have this pages right at the root, but I like to have this pages inside of the source, and then from there make other folders inside of the source directory. It's just a nice way that I like to organize things, so that's how I do it. And then I'm just going to delete pretty much everything inside of here. So the styles I don't want, so I'm going to move that to the trash. Then this index and app.js, I'm also going to delete those. And then there's also this hello.js inside of the API folder. I'm going to get rid of that. And then this way we're starting nice and fresh. So one thing we're going to need is that index.js inside of the pages directory. So I'm going to create that, index.js. And then I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to grab the code from this pages index.js. So you can just hover over and then click copy. And then I can go back to my text editor and I can just paste that into here and then save. Then I'm also going to close this for the time being just to have a little bit more space here. So this is that code now inside of this file. Then I'm going to go back and then I'm going to grab the code from the checkout sessions.js. So I'm going to copy this. Then I'm going to go back to my code editor. And then inside of this API, I'm going to make a checkout sessions.js file. So checkout_sessions.js. Then that code that I copied in my clipboard, I'm just going to paste right here. So here we are. And then finally, the last thing I have to copy over is inside of this .env. So I'm just going to grab these two things right over here. So I'm going to copy that and then go back to my text editor. And then inside of the make gains folder, so it's going to be on this level here, not inside of the source, I'm going to create my .env file. And then I can paste into here and save that. So if you see these keys with this word test, that means you're using the test key. And that's what you want to be using because that's going to do the fake payments. So right here, we see we have a Stripe secret key. And then we also have this Stripe publishable key. And it's prepended with this next_public_. So when you prepend an environment variable with next_public_ when using Next.js, then it's going to expose this to the browser. So the publishable key, that's the one that we want to expose to the browser, but the secret one, we do not want to expose that to the browser. So that's why we're not going to have this next_public_ prepending this key here. So make sure that it's like this. And then just to make sure that the keys are correct, you can go back into your Stripe dashboard in this API key section while you have the test mode activated. Then you can grab the publishable key just by clicking. Then you can go back and then you can make sure you have the correct one in here. So in my case, it's the exact same. And then I'm going to grab the secret key. So I'm going to reveal it, copy it, go back here, and then paste it into here. So there we are. So now these keys are correct, which means everything's going to now work out. So now we're going to have to tweak some things. So let's go into this checkout sessions and let's take a look at how this works. So first we're importing Stripe and then we're doing that with the require statement and then we're passing in the Stripe secret key. Now one thing we have to do is actually have Stripe installed in this application. So I'm going to go back into the Stripe documentation for this pre-built checkout page. And then there's a line here that shows you how to install that. So I'm just going to copy this line, go back, open up my terminal. And then while inside of this folder right here, which is this one right over here, I can also do an ls just to confirm that we have these things inside of here. Then I'm going to paste this, but I'm going to remove this next right here because we already have next in this project. If you open the package.json, it's one of the dependencies that's in here already, so we don't have to install it again. All we need is this Stripe.js here. So I'm going to click enter in order to install this dependency. So now we see the dependency right over here. So that installed successfully. So I'm going to close this up now, close my package.json, and now let's go ahead and take a look at this file. So we brought in Stripe inside of here. So now with that, we can utilize the Stripe API. And in particular, we want to create a checkout session. So you do that with stripe.checkout.sessions.create. That's how you create a session. And then this right here, this is how you define an endpoint inside of Next.js. And then this right here, it has to be a post request. And then it's going to be a post request to API/checkout_sessions. So if we take a look at this index.js right now, right over here with the form, we see that we have an action going to API/checkout sessions. So that's going to hit this API/checkout sessions. So this has to be spelled correctly. That's very important. And the method is going to be post. So that's important. So we're going to hit this right here with the post request. Otherwise, we're going to hit this here, which is just going to give us a 405 error saying method not allowed. So if you use anything but a post request to hit this endpoint, this is what it's going to return. Now, if we do hit this correctly, then we're going to create this session. This is going to be asynchronous, so we have the await keyword here. And then the session, we have a couple of properties we have to pass to this. So one of them is going to be the price ID. So first, let's deal with this here. So I'm going to go back into Stripe, and then we have to create a product. So we can go into this products tab in order to do that. And then you can add a product. So I'm going to add a product. I'm going to call this whey protein powder. And then I'm going to upload an image. So I just downloaded some random image from Google of whey protein. So I'm just going to upload that here. So there's the image. And then here for the price, I'm just going to do standard pricing. It's going to be a one-time payment. And it's going to cost $79.99. And then I can put some optional description. Most wonderful protein powder on earth. There we are. Save this product. So now we have a product here, and this product has a price ID. So we want to copy this price ID. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to my code, and that's what I'm going to place inside of here. I'm going to remove this and paste in this price ID. And then next we have the payment method types. So there's quite a number of different payment method types that you can accept. The most common one's going to be card. There's also other method types like wallet and bank debits and transfers, bank redirects, buy now, pay later, and so on and so forth. There's plenty of other payment methods as well. So here we have these two. And then we have the mode that we pass. So here you can pass a payment, a subscription, or setup. So payment's just going to be a one-time payment. Subscription is going to, of course, be a subscription. And then setup is just a way to set up a customer, which then you can charge later. So if you don't want to charge them straight away, but you want to charge them in a future time, let's say once you ship a product or something, then you can have setup. And then we have the success URL. This is where they're going to go on a success. I'm just going to bring them to a thank you page. So it's going to be thank-u, and it's going to have these query parameters right here inside of the URL. So it's going to have a success and a session ID. So this right here, we don't have to touch. This is going to get pre-populated. And then we're also going to have the cancel URL, which I'm just going to bring them back to our default homepage. And then it's going to have the canceled equals true. And actually, to make this a little simpler, maybe I won't bring them to a thank you page. I'll just do both of these going to the homepage. That's just going to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. So this is all we need on the Next.js API side. And then we can go back here and take a look at the code. So we're bringing in React from React. This is because we're using the useEffect hook. Now, I like to destructure useEffect from React, so that's the way I'm going to do it. So I'm going to use my curly braces and bring in useEffect, and then I can remove this React right here. And then another thing is we have this Stripe promise. This is something we're not making use of. We're storing it in a constant, but because I'm not making use of it, I'm just going to remove this right here and just have the load Stripe. Then save that just so it goes on one line. And then I also don't like to do the export default function way of doing things. I like to do a constant, and then I'm going to call this, instead of preview page, I'm going to call it home page. And then I'm going to make it an arrow function. And then I'm going to do a default export at the bottom. So there we are. So this is going to be our home page. And then inside of this useEffect hook, what's going on here is we're grabbing the query parameters. So we're going to have that success and canceled query parameter, if you remember. So on our success, we have this success here. And then on the cancel, we have this canceled query parameter. So we're just extracting those with this right here. But there's a different way I like to extract these query parameters. So I'm just going to do it that way. And that's using Next router. So I'm going to import use router. This is coming from Next router. And then what I can do here is const router is use router. And then I'm going to destructure success and canceled. And this is going to come from router.query. So initially this success and canceled, they're going to be undefined until router kind of loads in and extracts those query parameters and has them inside of here. So initially they're going to be undefined, but then later they're going to be defined once we actually extract the values. Or more specifically, only one of them is going to end up being defined and one's going to be undefined. So inside of here, I'm going to have success and canceled. That way, if one of these updates, we run this useEffect hook. And then I'm going to have an if check. And I'm going to check if success doesn't equal undefined or canceled doesn't equal undefined. Then I'm going to do what's inside of here. Now I'm just going to fix the indenting. And then instead of having query.get here, I'm just going to remove this and have success. So if success is true, then we're going to do this right here, which is just console.log, the order is placed. And then if we have canceled being true, then I'm going to console.log this. So this is kind of why I didn't have a thank you page. Otherwise, I'd have to do the same sort of thing on the thank you page as well. So it just makes it a little bit easier. And then I don't need this query here, so I'm just going to comment that out. So there we are. That's our logic here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to open up this terminal and do an npm run dev in order to run my development server. So that is now running. So I'm going to go back to my browser and I'm going to navigate to localhost 3000. And now we have this checkout button. Now, if we go to this pre-built checkout page, we see this right over here, and it looks a little bit nicer. We actually have the image, some kind of title text with the price. So I want something a little bit more similar to that instead of just the checkout button. So let's go ahead and implement that. So back inside of my code, I'm going to close up this terminal. I can do that with control backtick, and then I'm going to go down. And then right now inside of this section, all we're doing is returning this button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a div here. Then inside of this div, I'm going to have an image, and then I'm going to have that title and the price. So in order to have an image in here, I'm going to bring an image. So I'm going to import image from Next.image. This is just a way to have more optimized images when using server-side rendered React with Next.js. And then I can use this image component. So there's going to be some properties I need to pass to this. There's going to be the source. So this is going to be the URL of the image. And then an easy way to find the URL of the image, I'm just going to comment this out for now and save. And then going back in here, I can just click on this checkout. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove that as a payment method. I'm just going to accept cards in this. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. I'm going to rerun my server. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to click on this checkout again. And then right here, we're going to see in order to use checkout, you must set an account or business name at the dashboard. So what we need to do is we have to go inside of here. We're going to click on this gear icon, and then you're going to click on account details. And then inside of here, you have to put in a business name. So the business name in my case is just going to be making gains. That's our business name. And then I can save that. And then we also have to have a statement descriptor. So I'm going to do making gains. And then I also have to include a phone number. So this is something I'm just going to blur out so you don't see my phone number. And then save that. So I'm just going to go back to this products tab, go back into here, click the back button, and click this checkout once again. So now we're actually navigated here where we see a checkout page made by Stripe. So now I can just right click on this. I can open the image in a new tab. And then here I have the URL of the image. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this URL. I'm going to go back to my code. And then I'm going to go into this index.js, uncomment this image tag, and then inside of this source, I can paste this in here. So there we are. And then I'm also going to have an alt tag to this. So I'm going to do alt, and it's just going to say whey protein powder. And then I'm going to have a width, which I'm going to set to 150. And then I'm also going to have a height, which I'm going to set to 150. So if we go back, I can now close this, click back here, which is going to do a cancel. And then we're going to see this right over here. Hostname Stripe, camo.global, SSL, fastly.net is not configured under images in your Next.config.js. So I'm just going to copy this right here, go back to my code, and then I'm going to open up my Next.config.js. And then what I need to do is have images. So that's going to be an option, and that's going to be an object where inside of here, I pass domains, which is going to be a list. And then inside of this list, inside of quotes, I can pass this domain here. So this is going to allow that image tag to optimize images with this domain. So I can now save that, and then I have to rerun my server. So I'm going to stop running it with Control-C, clear this up, and do an npm run dev once again. And then now I can go back here, and I'm just going to remove this query parameter, and then click enter. And there we go. Now we have the whey image showing up. So beautiful. Now we have a little bit more work to do here just so that this looks a little bit nicer. So I'm going to go back to my code, close this up, close up my terminal. And then right here, we have a style tag where they're just doing some inline styles. So I'm just going to put my styles in here just to make things a little bit simpler for myself. So inside of here, I'm going to have a class. And this class is going to be for my heading. And that's just going to be that heading that says something like whey protein powder. It's going to have a font size of 28 pixels. And then I'm also going to have a font weight, something like 200. That should make it look nice. Then I'm going to have a class of price. It's going to have a font size of 18 pixels, a font weight of bold, And now I can just utilize these. So that's going to be right after this image. I'm going to have a div. And then inside of this div, I'm going to have my header. So I'm going to have an h3 with a class name of heading. And it's going to say whey protein powder. Then I'm going to have an h5. This is going to have a class name of price. And then the price we have is $79.99. So that's what I'm going to display right here. And then this right here, I'm also going to pass a class to. And it's going to be description. And I'm going to do the same thing with the image. I'm also going to pass a class to this, which is going to be image. And then the reason for that is if I go back here, all of this is going to be sort of in a vertical display. So I want to have these things side by side. So right over here, I'm going to pass this class of description and image. And then description, I'm just going to pass float of right. And then image, I'm going to pass a float of left. So if I go back, now they're going to be side by side. So it looks a little bit better. And then I just have to fix up this button since it doesn't look very good right now. So let's go down to that button. We already have some styling for it here. I'm going to make the height a little bit bigger. I'll do something like 45 pixels. Then I'm going to add some padding to this of say 10 pixels. And then I'm going to add a font size. I'll do that right above this font weight, so font size. And I'll do say 18 pixels. Let's see how that looks. And there we go. Looks a lot better. So now we have the whey protein. We have the title here, the price, and maybe I could add a little bit of margin here. So on the description, I'll do some margin on the left. And for that, I'll do something like, of say 10 pixels. Let's see how that looks. So that pushed this to the next line. So I'm gonna have to make the width a little bit larger on this section. So I'll do something like 450 pixels. Let's see how that looks. And there we go, that looks a lot better. So things are looking pretty proper right now. So let's go ahead and now click on this checkout and test things out. So I'm gonna click on checkout. Now we get the checkout page here. I'm gonna put in an email address. I'm gonna put in a card. I'll do this 4242 card. And then put in an expiration date, a CVV. The name on the card will be John Doe. And then I'll put in a postal code. And then I can click pay. So here we're gonna pay $79.99. So if we actually go back into Stripe right now and then take a look at payments, we're gonna see we have an incomplete payment because this one got canceled. But if right now we do a pay, actually I think the one previously was the canceled one. So this one should be canceled, this one should be happening right now. And then if I click on this pay, so it's gonna process. And there we are. So now we're brought back into here. And then if I open up my console, I'll see order placed, you will receive an email confirmation. So there we go, we hit that console log on the success because we have the success query parameter up here. And then if I go back into here, do a refresh, then we see that this now succeeded. So that's because this one we didn't cancel, the one previously we did, this one right here we didn't, so it all worked out. So beautiful. That is how you implement Stripe checkout. And then with that, now you know how to accept payments in a nice and easy way using Stripe with Next.js. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't yet, please hit that like button. It goes a long way to help a channel like mine grow and get recognized so others can benefit from the videos I release as well. Also, I have links in the description that you can check out. I have one for an e-commerce course that you can check out if you're interested in learning to develop an application like that. I also have a link for joining my Web Development Kings Facebook group. That way, if you want to personally ask me something, then you can go right ahead and do that, and I will happily help you out. It doesn't cost you anything. So if you're scratching your head about something, then you can go right ahead and ask me to help you out. Only questions I probably won't answer are if you want me to help you build some kind of personal project, as I don't quite have the time for that sort of thing. You can also post something in the group itself. That way other developers in the group can help you out with something as well. The group is all about growing your expertise as a developer. So if you're interested in that, then go right ahead and click that link in the description and join the family. Also, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notification bells. That way you don't miss out when I release a new video, and I will see you in the next one.